Eagles talk A to D wasn't pretty, but we have 60 minutes of football. We'll talk about the previous 60 minutes. We got our poll question. We got Bone on the Birds. We'll look ahead to next week, 3 o'clock Sunday at the Link with one of these two chump teams coming in to try and take the Eagles out of these NFL playoffs. Let's talk about it. Let's go.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
All right, welcome in, everyone. This is Eagles Talk, A2D Radio. PY, Mr. Peter Young. I am Rob Brinkman. Les Bowen will be along. Wasn't pretty. Was never really stressful, though. No. Therefore, the Eagles will get 60 more minutes of football this season to try and advance to an NFC championship game. Like I said in the open, we're going to talk about the Packers game. We're going to talk about an injury, unfortunately. We're going to talk about A.J. Brown, number 11. Likes to do some reading on the sidelines. The quarterback, the coordinator, the coach, everything Eagles for the next hours. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. We are live from the Real Talk Studios. Find us Instagram, Twitter, X, Facebook. You guys know. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're there too. We're everywhere. Like I said, turn those notifications on. Don't miss a damn thing during what is hopeful a Super Bowl run for this Philadelphia Eagles team. Each and every week, we are brought to you by our good friends at Baguio Breads, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed bread, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. Open Saturdays, open Sundays, obviously 3 o'clock on Sunday. Head to Baggio's Breads, get your tailgate stuff, get your in-home party stuff, and watch what I think will be another fruitful Eagles playoff victory and Eagles playoff weekend. Poll question of the night. Kellen Moore and the offensive play calling were the main reason the passing offense struggled against the Packers. I disagree with this. I didn't like the game plan, but players got to get open, and they didn't get open. It was a lot of slow developing crossing routes, which didn't make sense to me. They kind of ignored the A.J. Brown quick slant. They kind of ignored the deep ball. So I don't know if they saw something on film, but clearly the Packers were watching the same film and knew it was coming because it was tough sledding for this offense. But that's what January football is. There's week 8 narratives, PY. There's week 7 narratives. The only narrative that matters here in mid-January that you won on the scoreboard and you're moving on. Jalen Hurts played good enough. Jalen Hurts played good enough to win. Nick Sirianni coached good enough to win. Kellen Moore was good enough to win. And certainly, the Eagles defense played good enough to win. So, this offense is what it is at this point.
Yep.
It really is. This passing game isn't just going to flip a switch at the end of January and all of a sudden be, the 04 Colts with Peyton Manning at the helm. Like, that's not what this team is. This is a tough team up front. This is a tough team defensively. They have a great running back. And Jalen Hurts kind of just has to kind of not turn the ball over and just plug away and score enough points for this defense to hold on. So I hold on for victories. So, Kellen Moore, no, I would say that the main reason for the offensive struggles yesterday against the Packers is, number one, the Packers are good.
Yep.
And number two, guys they weren't getting open. AJ was reading books on the sideline, which honestly I don't really care about, but it will be discussed later on in the show. You really had the one drive where you hit crossing pattern to Devontae Smith, and then Goddard goes Rob Gronkowski and stiff arms his way all the way down the sidelines for a touchdown.
Baptizes him in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
So, I get it. You want to see him go out there and put up 30, but they almost did. They put up 22. They only went up 10. This team only lets up 10 points.
That would have been a 30 burger if he finds the end zone, which he would have if he doesn't kneel.
Oh, Saquon.
Yeah,
made a lot of people upset with his
who gives a shit
with their parlays.
Not me. Parlay.
Not me yesterday, but I got my money. I got my Eagles minus 4.5, so we're good. So PY, obviously it wasn't pretty. Poll question of the night: Kellen Moore and the offensive play calling were the main struggles for the passing offense.
So I actually agree to the poll. Like, you knew this was going to be a difficult game because the Packers have a really good defense, but you also knew the fact that Jalen hasn't played in almost a month. So the game plan didn't make any sense. Like the A.J. Brown only getting like a few targets here and there makes no sense. We had one drop back pass where Jalen went like 1 for 11 or something. And you don't think to yourselves, hey, you know what? That's going to get him into some rhythm. That's an easy throw. Like, that was my main issue with it. Like, as usual with the first half offense, Saquon doesn't run it as much as he should because they're saving all his touches for the second half. Like, oh, he's just going to get going in the second half. That's great. Jahan Dotson getting his touchdown was awesome. You know, that was just a really good throw. Like, a lot of my issues when it comes to the Kellen Moore offense, and people were like, oh, you know, it's because Jalen's at quarterback. And I said, no. Like, you should be going out of your way to get him going after not playing for 3 weeks. Like, just simple stuff, like simple throws. Like, use A.J. Brown. Like, have a quick read to A.J. Brown where you're going out of your way to make that a thing. Same thing with Devontae Smith. Like, crossing routes. Get open in the middle of the field. Like, you don't have to do anything crazy. Find A.J. Brown with some space and let him do what he has to do. A.J. will get his. Devontae will get his. Even Jahan Dotson has speed. Like, he showed you last week that if you give him space and you give him opportunities, he can make plays. Like, that's been my whole issue with the Kellen Moore offense this whole year, is that, like, they're just not setting up simple things to get the quarterback going. Like, obviously, everything else will find its time. And Jalen in the second half got going. He did what he needed to do in the run game. He was efficient in the passing game. But I think that's just my issue with Kellen Moore at times is he tries to make it more complicated than it needs to be. The motion stuff is nice, but, like, take some easy throws. Give him some easy throws. Like, go out of your way and be like, all right, this is what we're drawing up. Quick slant to AJ, 6 yards out. Like, we'll see what happens. And then just let them take it. Like, it's either going to work or it's not. Like, set up some easy completions for Jalen to get him feeling like he's in a rhythm, to make him feel confident. And then the big plays are going to come. The deep shots are going to come. Like, the big chunks of the middle of the field are going to happen because he's feeling it, because he's got the vibes are going well. And then you can set up the play action, and then Saquon is going to bust open a run or two. Like, I just don't think he had a good game plan coming in. And maybe that's Sirianni, and maybe that's Hurts not feeling comfortable after being 3 weeks out in the offense. But him being out for 3 weeks, like, this should have been a game plan, a smart game plan heading in, that we got to do what we can to get him going fast and early.
I mean, two things on that, which I guess would fall into somewhat beef with the offensive coaching. For whatever reason, scripted plays to start a game are not what Sirianni and Kellen Moore and maybe Jalen Hurts can be included in that too. That's not what they do. They're not good at it. They haven't been good at it for 4 months, and I don't expect them to get good at it against the Rams or the Vikings or the Lions in the championship game, and hopefully, God willing, against an AFC opponent in New Orleans at the Super Bowl. Number two, I don't understand why they don't use the middle of the field more. I understand that's not Jalen's bread and butter. I know you have the quick slant and the deep ball to A.J. Brown. That's been Jalen Hurts' bailout for really since A.J. Brown walked through the door. but I don't understand why they don't use the middle of the field more. They're just, at this point, they're just not interested in it, which I don't understand. But, I mean, they have an outstanding record, and they've made it to the division round with what they got. So they need to play up to their capabilities within their style of football, and they're going to be more than fine next Sunday at the Link at 3:00. Supremely confident. So, I mean, let's get to some comments here. We got them rolling in. Wayne Payne, go Birds. Bob Brinkman, timing is off, no offensive rhythm. I mean, change, like, what else is new? Like, this isn't poetry and motion on the offensive side of the football. That's not how they're built.
Nope.
It is how they're built, but that's not how they perform, because they have enough talent to be poetry and motion on the offensive side of the football. But they haven't been that style of team for 4 months now. So it's not walking through the door next Sunday, even though I am confident that they're going to be in the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
A few weeks from Sunday. The Philly podcast. Kellen doesn't use enough pre-snap motion. Packers started blitzing. He should have put the wide receivers in motion more. Moore should have just utilized. So he wants Philly podcast. They want to see motion. This is like, because Kellen Moore has been a motion guy in Dallas and LA, and now he's not really a motion guy here. So, I mean, I hear you. I would love to see more motion, because it gives a quarterback and Jalen Hurts, who's far from a tactician as a pocket passer, little clues throughout the pre-snap routine on what defense and what coverage the defense is going to be in. So I don't understand. So I'm looking at Sirianni on that one, because if the guy's been a motion guy his whole career, and then he gets hired by Nick Sirianni, and now he's not really that big of a motion guy, like, where am I supposed to point the blame? Or maybe Jalen doesn't want it. Maybe Jalen doesn't want it and he's not good at it. Les Bowen just joined us backstage. He will be brought up in a second after I get through some of these comments. Rosca, he's all rammed up tonight. I do hope the Rams win for financial reasons. Ryan Swoop, PY, Kellen Moore is hardly using any pre-snap notion. Any audibles? I mean, this is like, the theme of this is not Kellen Moore, in my opinion, guys. The theme of this is Jalen Hurts. Now, yes, he's doing more with the protections and some stuff pre-snap because Jason Kelsey's not here. But, I mean, the proof's kind of in the pudding 4 months in that, audibles and motion, it's either not a Sirianni thing or it's not a Jalen Hurts thing. And it's not going to, like, intricacies of the offense are not going to change in 1 week when you're 2 games away from playing for a world championship. So they're going to have to figure out how to be better at their version of football, which I don't think that is going to be a problem until they have to go to Detroit, assuming they go to Detroit. All right, let's bring him up. Mr. Les Bowen. Bowen on the Birds. Joins us every week. Les.
Hello,
Les.
Hello,
Wasn't
Peter.
pretty yesterday.
No.
Never thought it was in doubt.
No.
Or the cover.
One of those things where if you said before the game, hey, would you take a 12-point Eagles win where they never trailed and had the lead from a minute 39 in? You probably would have, but the way it happened was just so irritating that people didn't really feel that way by the end of the game.
Great word, irritating.
Yeah.
Because it felt like they wanted to pop the entire game, and it never really happened.
Right. Yeah.
So our poll question's still there on the field. We're talking about Kellen Moore, the offensive play calling. I guess that I don't even want to say struggles, because Jalen Hurts, he only had to throw the ball 21 times yesterday, and he completed 13 of them, and he had 2 touchdown passes. Saquon did his thing, and then, like, if the defense doesn't let up any points, then that's a great recipe for success. So,
and how many of those were throwaways?
Yeah,
I don't know. Probably a couple.
At least 5.
On our poll question, I really struggle with this because I'm not an X and O guy. That's not my expertise, and I don't pretend that it is. But you see so many still shots and discussions of, okay, here was the situation. Hurts is back there, and there's verticals, and there's nobody coming back to him, and I don't get their concepts. I mean, it's a lot of it has to be Hurts, but I don't think Moore does him any favors. They had that one play where they rolled him out to the left, and he had the easy pitch and catch to Devontae Smith on a big third down. Why can't they do that? You know, what's keeping them from doing that more often? What's keeping them from throwing slants? You know, and I've heard some people say, oh, Hurts must not want to do these things. Well, at some point, if what he wants to do isn't working, then you have to tell him he's going to do what's effective. And I can't imagine that he really wants to be standing back there for 5 seconds watching people run downfield, you know, straight downfield. It's puzzling to me, guys, and I just don't understand it.
It is puzzling because he's a good player with skills.
Yeah. And
so, like,
I think it has something
motion.
to do with Kellen Moore. I just don't think you watch other teams and you see these concepts and you don't see them with the Eagles. And like I said, even if Hurts is resistant to them, you have to override that because you have to find stuff that works, whether Jalen is comfortable with it or not. You know,
let's just say that it is Jalen and he's not comfortable with the full repertoire of a Kellen Moore offense. So Kellen Moore doesn't, or Jalen Hurts doesn't like motion. He's apprehensive towards the middle of the field. The slants have gone away. Maybe that's rust. Maybe it's not. I don't know. So really the only way he's comfortable is if he's rolling to his right and A.J. Brown's wide open, or he can just throw a deep ball to A.J. Brown on a go route. Like, you gotta get.
I'm not buying that.
I'm not buying it either, but it's something. This passing attack is not complex. It's just not. And I've watched it for 4 months. It's not going to get complex next Sunday against the Rams or the Vikings. So, like, what's the problem? You have a great line. You have a top 10 quarterback. You have a 2,000-yard rusher. And you have maybe the best duo at wide receivers in the NFL.
I don't know.
Why
I wish
can't
I knew what the problem was. I don't understand it at all. I don't.
Because, they're going to have to play 4 quarters of crisp offensive football to go to Detroit and win a championship game.
Yep.
That performance beat Green Bay yesterday, and that performance will probably beat the Rams or the Vikings next week.
Yep.
That performance will not beat Detroit in Detroit. Period.
No, it won't. No.
And
You're right.
I hope that they can I hope they can just have an epiphany, and it just clicks. Maybe they see something. I don't know.
I was optimistic early yesterday when he actually found Jahan Dotson in the end zone. Jalen hasn't wanted to throw the ball to Jahan Dotson all season. It took 7 seconds, for that to happen, but it was actually, it wasn't like he was wide open the whole time. It took him that long to really get wide open. But I thought maybe that would be the start of something really good, but it wasn't really.
Do you know what Jahan Dotson is really good at? The best receiver in the room at doing on the Eagles is the scramble drill.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, for as gifted as they are, they're not very good at the scramble drill.
That is absolutely true, Rob. I have noticed that they kind of jog out there and sort of stand around, like, oh, okay. He's hadn't thrown the ball yet. Well, I guess we're done. I don't get that either. I don't get why they can't fix that.
So
why can't you tell them that they need to do better on that? I don't understand, but
Devontae is the one that I'm astonished isn't the best in the league at it. He was at Alabama. He's been it's not like he shrunk. He's been 175 pounds his whole life. He should be. I feel like he should be crafty enough to figure out how to get on the same page with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And have a scramble drill for one time. mean, they were teammates in college as well, correct?
Yes,
At
they
least
were.
for practice.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's one of the worst things they do is the scramble drill, and that is not all Hurts. I mean, you just don't see when you watch the replays, you don't see guys coming back to him open, waving their arms.
Guys just run their routes, and then once the route is done, they're done.
And so often in this offense, it seems like there's one or two guys who are actually going to get the ball, and everybody else just sort of jogs around. They don't really. You don't see a lot of crossing or a lot of guys coming open late or anything like that. It's just I don't know. I don't like it much. And if the Cowboys hire Kellen Moore tomorrow as their head coach, which they won't because they can't talk to him yet, but if they did, it wouldn't bother me a bit. Frankly, at this point, I don't think this is working great. I don't know.
But don't you see like a little bit of a trend now, Les?
Oh, so, sure. But
Jalen
I think he got along fine with Brian Johnson. I don't think Hurts and Johnson were fine. I think it was Sirianni that was in the middle there. I think Hurts would love to still have Johnson. But as to what, Hurts definitely is headstrong in some ways and isn't doing some things that he needs to be able to do. I agree with you on that. But I also don't like Kellen Moore's approach to this. I just don't. And again, maybe I'm ignorant, but I just don't see it.
You're not ignorant. You're not ignorant because I see the same thing. How come in the Tanner McKee game, which I guess was against the Giants, quick throws?
Yeah. Well, he was rolling him out too. He was moving the pocket, like I was saying about that throw to Devontae yesterday. That looked like the offense they were running with Tanner McKee, but they did it one play.
Yep.
And you can't tell me Hurts hates doing that. Why would you hate doing that? What the hell?
Yeah, that makes no sense to me. You can't make me believe he hates slants. You can't make me believe he hates the middle of the field because that was the offense in 22, and he killed it.
The only problem with the middle of the field that I see is he has these gigantic guards now, and
too short.
I do think he has to struggle for a perspective. Looking over the middle. That's something I once saw a thing where Drew Brees was talking about that, about being a smaller quarterback and having to find your perspective there. And it's not easy, but that's the only thing I see. I can't believe Jalen Hurts won't throw it over the middle. I just think they need to figure out a way to get him, into a spot where he can see what's going on. It's just but Rob is exactly right. This is the best team left in terms of the roster in the NFL playoffs, but they're not going to win the Super Bowl with what they had yesterday offensively.
No.
And
but they'll tell you that. They all know that wasn't good enough.
Right. And it's got to get a lot better.
But I mean, PY, I've been hearing that for months. Like, we got to get better. We're going to watch the film. We're going to do this.
Well, they've had some games.
January.
They've had some games where it was pretty good, but that wasn't one yesterday. And it should have been so much better than it was. I do think the Packers did some things defensively.
Oh, yeah. They were blitzing all over the place.
And their coverages were interesting. I think they did. That was as good a defense as they're going to face in the playoffs. I'm pretty confident, unless Detroit gets 12 more guys back or something. But,
exactly.
They
could lose more guys.
Yeah.
Get to a few more comments here, then we will just roll down the topics that I have laid out outside of our poll questions and takeaways from the Eagles and around the league. Rob, the defense may look good, but Fangio and the playoffs have to – the Birds' safeties, secondary and safeties, line up closer to the line, stop being afraid of giving up the big play, stop the middle of the field short pass. Ryan, love you. You comment a lot, but, you shouldn't want to change a thing about this defense right now.
Yeah, right? If there's one thing you want to change right now, it's not whatever Fangio is doing. You can get annoyed at some of the things that they do. Like them
Exactly.
playing too far in coverage bothers me. But you know what? Fangio has earned the benefit of the doubt. He has turned 2 rookie corners into, you could argue this year, the best duo in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Like nobody is expecting that.
Absolutely, Peter.
Like Jalen Carter is an All-Pro. He made Jalen Carter an All-Pro. He was good last year. He was phenomenal this year. Milton Williams has had a great year. Josh Sweat has had a resurgence. Nolan Smith looks like he is turning that corner. Hassan Reddick, that is what you look like when you're thinking about Nolan Smith.
Yeah, I understand what you said about being irritated is exactly right, Peter. You know, that would see a 3rd and 4 and they're playing 10 yards off is irritating, but I guess there's a good reason for it. I'm not going to, 10 points to the Packers is just fine with me. That's I'm not going to criticize that a bit.
I mean, when I was at the game yesterday with my father. I'll be there next Sunday too. Like when I'm sitting in the stands for 3+ hours less, and the most animated and stressed I got was when that thug threw Saquon Barkley to the ground.
Yeah,
I stood out of my seat and I freaked out. I wanted him thrown out of the game. I wanted all hell Philly fan to just break loose on that guy because he was just angry that they were getting punked out and lost. So he took the 2,000-yard rusher and threw him on the ground for no reason. If that's the most animated and stressed that I get in an Eagles playoff victory, we're good.
Yeah.
10 points. Results.
Yeah, that was remarkable.
Business.
I mean, the turnovers, the whole thing was just a masterclass, really. It was interesting to me. I don't know what you think about Jordan Love, but this time last year, I actually watched some highlights today of that Packers-Cowboys playoff game last year where Jordan Love just ate the Cowboys alive.
Right.
And I was thinking about it in context of Jaden Daniels and how everybody's sure that he's the greatest quarterback that ever lived. Something seems to happen with. I know defenses get an off season to really look at a guy and what he does and what he likes to do and so forth. But it just seems like the development is never linear. It just doesn't seem to go straight forward. And Love, he wasn't good yesterday. He was
awful.
He had a horrible time. And
I think that there's a couple things that I think can be attributed to that. Whether you want to admit it or not, and I talk about it a lot, is these guys that are on the rookie deal and then they break out and then they get paid, they lose their edge. I don't know anything about Jordan Love or what his makeup is. I couldn't even tell you where the man went to college. I don't know. I don't care. I don't have a reason to know because he's been eliminated from the NFL playoffs. Money changes guys.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't become 15 minutes for every meeting when you're making the kind of money that especially these quarterbacks make. And number two, I mean, he can't stay healthy. I mean, they played him for whatever reason. A meaningless game against the Bears, somewhat meaningless. There was seeding on the line, and he got himself banged up again. So, either he's too injury prone to be effective, or he needs, his helmet needs to get adjusted because his head got too big from his big time contract.
Yeah, and they lost a lot of receivers. They ended up with almost nobody that they really wanted to throw the ball to on the field.
Yeah. I think Jaden Reed tapped out at halftime. He got tattooed so many times.
Yeah. And he had an incredible game against the Eagles in the opener. I don't know if you remember that. Jesus,
yep.
he was A.J. Brown that game, but not yesterday.
Rosca, our L.A. resident. First off, hope you're safe there, Mr. Rosca. A lot of L.A. stuff on the news that's not so good. And, yes, the Rams are playing very well. For those not following along with the game, they were up 17-3.
I think the Rams will win that game, and I think they are a much better team than they were when the Eagles played them. But I still like the matchup of the Eagles' offensive line against the Rams' defensive line.
Yeah, I mean,
especially against the run.
Show.
I think they'll push those guys around. Now, Stafford and the offense, I think, are much more dangerous. I think their offensive line is playing way better than it was then. but Fangio will have to figure that out. But I don't fear that matchup too much. I really don't. And I didn't expect the Vikings. Their franchise history. You're not as old as I am, but I remember all those Super Bowls the Vikings used to go to in the 70s.
4 of them, correct?
Yeah, and I was as a kid, I kind of liked the Vikings. I liked Fran Tarkenton, and I kept pulling for them. And every Super Bowl they would get to and just go, and it just seems like that's their franchise identity. That was the 2017 season, the NFC Championship game against the Eagles. The year they had Randall Cunningham and they were 15-1 in the regular season.
Yeah, I missed that kick.
It never works out for them for whatever reason. It just something happens and it all goes to what. And I think Sam Darnold is kind of they're going to what this year, and it's strange. It really is.
Well, there's 2 minutes to go. The Vikings do have the football.
Yeah.
And they get the second half kickoff, so maybe they can.
Yeah, they could come back, but I don't expect it. And what a thing for LA to come out and play like this in the situation they're in Arizona. I mean, I don't know how many guys on that team have been affected directly by the fires, but it's at the top of your mind. I mean, if that happened in Philly, what would you be thinking? How would you be focusing? It's just incredible that they're able to overcome that and play, and God bless them. And I sure hope, I hope they get that thing straightened out there. It's one of the damnedest things I've ever seen in my life.
Truth. All right, Les. So we have to address the undisputed one negative of yesterday's football game. Mike linebacker Nakobe Dean. He's had a great season. He is out. He was carted off. He tore his patella tendon. No more football for Nakobe Dean this year, and probably not very much football for Nakobe Dean next year. One of the rising stars at linebacker in the Vic Fangio difference. What would you say that your concern level is with this injury?
Moderately high. First of all, for the Eagles for the playoffs, Oren Burks, I mean, he had that great hit on the opening kickoff, but if you watched him play in linebacker, he overran a lot of plays. He missed some tackles. He's not Nakobe Dean. I mean, he would have been playing if he was Nakobe Dean.
Nope.
They're going to have to really coach him up and maybe put Trotter Jr. in there for some snaps. I don't know. It's a big loss, big loss. The other side of it is Nakobe Dean. You said it exactly right, Robert. That's what I was prepared to say. Is a patellar tendon in January. It'll be November before he's really himself again. I bet. I hope I'm wrong, but that's a big injury. And
heartbreaking, Les.
All the big injuries in January. It's not like you show up at training camp 6 months later. I mean, no, that's
look at Sidney Brown.
Yeah. So this is the last year for Sidney Brown. He's been able to play some special teams and stuff, and that was an ACL, which isn't as bad as a patellar tendon. It's just a terrible thing for Nakobe Dean personally. I don't know if it'll be a terrible thing for the Eagles. It certainly ratchets up the necessity to get Zach Bond under contract for next year. That would be a disaster if you lost him. I mean, it would have been anyway, but it makes it even more of a disaster. You just can't even conceive of going forward without Zach Bond next year, now that you're probably not going to have Nakobe Dean, at least for the first half of the season. That's what happens in the NFL. You don't go through the playoffs without this sort of thing happening to you somewhere. But it's not good, and it's not going to, it's going to make things tougher. It really is.
PY, your reaction to Nakobe Dean not being able to play football for this team anymore this season?
Oh, it's a destroyer of worlds, in my opinion, because he's your leader on defense. Like he
Yeah.
He was like one of their captains. Like he was one of their most
destroyer of worlds, though.
Yeah.
I get it's a tough injury, and they're gonna have to.
I understand this, but I don't think people understand. After going as long as we've gone without good linebackers,
Yeah.
and I look, Oren Burks, he had a really nice start to the game. It was fantastic. Thank you so much for getting that fumble, whether or not you got it or not, whatever. But he's not Nakobe Dean. He's not Nakobe Dean in coverage. He's not Nakobe Dean as a pass rusher. He's not Nakobe Dean with his sure-handed tackling skills.
Yeah.
He's just not. He's not Nakobe Dean with his intelligence on the football field, because there's a reason why he's got the green dot. Like it's just not. Like I don't. I understand. Like if you lost Zach Bond, that would just be like the worst thing that could happen to this.
That would be way worse.
Yeah. It would, but I just don't think people understand how big of an impact this is. Like,
yeah,
he's been a good football player, and I'm not trying to minimize his loss or minimize him as a member of this team. But if the Eagles don't host a parade down Broad Street, I don't think it's going to be because Nakobe Dean got hurt.
Yeah, you're probably right, Rob. That's a good thing to say. That's a good way to say it. I think Burks can play at a. You remember when JP went down in 2017 and
yes.
Big V had to step in there.
Yep.
Big V wasn't anywhere close to Jason Peters. I mean, he wasn't even in the same.
Greg Miller, that was the Giants.
Oh, yeah. That I don't.
I mean, I get it.
Unless
you can finish your point about, and then I was going to.
But yeah, Big V, got them through the Super Bowl without a disaster unfolding, and I think Burks is a veteran linebacker. He's played in the league. I think he cannot be a disaster, and I think at this point you just have to look for other guys to make up for it, and. I don't think it's the worst thing that could possibly happen. It's certainly not good.
Warren Burks played well against the Giants with 17 tackles. Not as good in coverage as Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean, that's what he is. That's what these linebackers are these days. They're these fast little hybrid guys that have speed and athleticism. That's why running backs are making a comeback. It's just a recycle of how the game gets played, which happens every so often. Just to piggyback, the guy is aggressive. The guy is around the ball, and the guy's a tackling machine. Coverage, we'll see.
Yeah.
But he can step in a hole and tackle someone. He has good size.
I didn't see those tackles on Sunday.
Yeah, he did miss some tackles, but he
is a backup, PY.
Yeah.
I am not advocating for him being as good as Nakobe Dean.
He'll have a full week of practice this time.
Brandon did Zach Bond at one point and blew up on the 30-yard.
Yeah, you're right.
He took the linebacker.
You're exactly right. He took out Bond.
Played pretty good team defense. PY. They had up 10 points in a playoff game.
Yeah.
So clearly he wasn't that bad.
He sucked. I'm like, what do you want me to say? Like, that's just a factual statement. He didn't play well.
That's who we got. That's who we got, PY.
Do we have to have him?
I'd
rather put Trotter out there.
Retirement. Like, what do you want to do?
Well, I trust Fangio on that. If Fangio thinks he's better than Trotter at this point, then he probably is.
You're advocating for PY? You want to see Trotter play?
Sure. I would have more interest in him than I would about Warren Burks.
This isn't week 8, PY. We're not being interested. You need to win freaking football games. And
you're telling me Warren Burks at linebacker after what you saw on Sunday is going to help you?
I didn't think he was that bad, Pete. I think
the
30-yard run. You're exactly right. I saw the same thing you did. He missed the runner Jacobs and took out Bond. But I don't think he was terrible. I think he did some good things as well. But
I'd go grab Quan Alexander of the Lions practice squad and see what we got.
Lions are going to let you have a guy off their practice squad.
Yeah,
in a collision course for freaking 5 months.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They can't say no.
Mind?
Well,
This
the
is a
thing they could
family
do,
show.
Pete, the one thing they could do is usually if somebody wants to do something like that, the player and his agent will give the team that he's playing on a chance to go ahead and sign him to the roster. I don't know. I think that would be, since he hasn't played in this defense, I wouldn't think that would be where you'd want to go in the playoffs. But we'll
This guy
see.
came from San Francisco. This guy's no stranger to big football games either.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You say so.
He's going to
We'll
be.
see. I'm not quite ready to panic, but I do understand PY's concerns here. It's a step down. Yeah.
Way down, like below the floor.
I won't go that far.
So what? Do you think they're not Super Bowl contenders anymore because Orrin
I'm
Burks
not saying that, but I think the step down between Nakobe Dean and Orrin Burks is very high, and I don't feel as confident in our linebacker core that I did 24 hours ago.
I'll go along with the second part of that.
Well, obvious XM radio on the second part of it, though.
Yeah.
You don't have a solution, is my point. Your solution is to sign someone from Detroit's practice squad.
I didn't say I'm going to start him. I said I would like to grab another body so I have more depth, because I don't feel comfortable throwing Orrin Burks out there.
Nakobe Dean's not dressing. So somehow, some way. Activate 54 guys on Sunday against the Rams or the Vikings?
It'd be nice if you hadn't already lost Van Sumeren for the season too.
Yeah, right.
That's another guy from that room.
Like the fake fullback linebacker guy.
The real me is a fullback.
Yeah, I don't know if they signed him as a linebacker at all. I think that was just to block as a fullback, but I don't know. Kerry Blasingame, is that who you're talking about? Yeah.
That's the guy. Ryan Swoop plays. Defense may be the best. Look good on defense in the playoffs.
Those are the line. Yeah, we heard you. We heard you the first time.
We heard you the first time. Swoop, relax there.
I can't.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll whoop them, but I think they'll be better than that. But I don't know if they'll whoop them. Whoop is tough this time of year.
It's going to be a rainy day, which is a perfect Saquon game.
That is a good. That's probably a good Saquon thing. I also like the fact that Stafford isn't that mobile at this point in his career, and the Eagles.
You're not getting a 15-yard Stafford run, Wes.
Yeah, you're not going to see. Yeah, that's the thing. Those are the guys that give the Eagles problems, not the guys like Stafford. So, yeah.
Yeah, and they can't stop a cold when it comes to their run defense. They're atrocious.
The Rams, that's true.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's more holes on their defense than Swiss cheese.
All right, PY, we'll go to you. Closing thoughts, reactions, comments, concerns about the Green Bay Packers game.
Concerns. Always a fun time. I don't love only giving A.J. Brown like 2 or 3 targets. I don't love that. Like, you could say it's design or what, or it's Jalen or whatever. But as an offensive play caller, I don't give a crap what the quarterback is looking at.
Yeah.
You design those plays and you make it understood. It's like, yeah, we're struggling. You know what you're really good at? Throwing to A.J. Brown. I will go out of my way and be like, this is the play call. If he's not there, run or throw the ball out. I don't care. That is the play call. And as far as the stupid book thing goes, like, they've shown video of like him reading it throughout the season, and it was just a blank book.
Yeah,
I'd be like, all right, this may be something, but like, there's like all these notes and like highlighted passages through the book. Like, this is a thing that has been going on for a while, and like, I'd rather have him do that than like yapping to Devontae or Jalen on the sideline. Read the book, bro. I'm cool.
I think this is the most hilarious like wrinkle side story I might have ever seen in Philadelphia sports. Right. I don't care if
that book is number 1 on Amazon right now, by the way. Just want to throw that out there.
I'm sure it is. But
go read the reviews. They're hysterical.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. And if that's what he has to do to not be a distraction and freak out on the sidelines, whatever.
Yeah.
Just, when it's time for the offense to go into the game, he's got to put his book down and he's got to go play wide receiver.
See,
What he does when the defense goes on the
T.O. should have just read like War and Peace or something on the sideline.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Les, what are your thoughts on, I guess, Bookgate? Should we call it that?
It didn't bother me a bit. It's fine. There's nobody's angry about it. Nobody, it as a writer, it was funny because at least two people, I know Jeff Nyberg from the Inquirer and Connor Orr from whoever he works like the Athletic or whatever, both found the author, called him up, and did interviews with him about that. That's perfect for the writing trade. Let's find this guy. Let's see if he knows what's going on.
I don't follow sports.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. That's the sort of thing I enjoy. But
I don't even know what book it was. Like, what kind of book is it?
It's about like self-inspection and like trying to like center yourself.
Rob, some golfers like a decade ago got into this book. It's about being calm in pressure situations and not letting things affect you and stuff like that. I've never paid much attention to that stuff, but I know athletes, it's a big thing in the world of athletics, obviously. And so it's a book that's been around, and I think Ajomo told AJ about it. And AJ has really taken to it and really, treats it like the Bible. So, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. But as far as my takeaways, the Eagles beat a really good wild card team. They beat the best wild card team. They did it
not fairly typical number 7 seed.
Could have been a little better. I think if Saquon hadn't decided to sit down on that long run, I think everybody would be much happier today. The optics would have been so much better, but I do have concern about Jalen and the passing game. I think it's got to be better. I think everybody knows that. I don't think I'm saying anything that isn't obvious, but it does have to be better. I love the way the defense played. I love the way Nolan Smith played. I love the way Jalen Carter played almost every snap.
Yep.
And a year ago, if you'd have told me that he'd be doing that, I would have not believed it. Jordan Davis, by the way, played 13 snaps. I don't know what's going on with that. But, I love the way the defense played. I love the turnovers. I think this is a team that's certainly well positioned to get to Detroit, and we'll see what happens there.
Nolan Smith has more sacks in the playoffs than Michael Parsons, by the way. Fun fact.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Look, I kind of in my narrative the whole show. What went on offense yesterday worked yesterday. It'll work next week. I have no concerns about the Eagles advancing to the NFC Championship game. They're 1,000% going to be playing the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
What if Detroit doesn't beat Washington? Do you think there's any chance of that?
0 chance.
I don't.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
I'm not
the amount of things that would have to happen.
Right.
I'm not going to say 0 because that's just it's not 0. That guy Jaden Daniel, he's unbelievable. So, but I mean, they're going to have to score 40 because I think Detroit's putting 40 on that defense.
Yeah, me too.
So, but yesterday, good enough to win against the Packers. Going to be good enough to win against Minnesota or the Rams. It's not going to be good enough to win against Detroit in Detroit.
Agreed.
It's just not. So, if these guys, Sirianni, Kellen Moore, and Jalen Hurts can just lock themselves in a room for an afternoon, get some cheesesteaks, maybe read AJ's book, and get on the same page about
calm
what
your
Jalen wants to do. Just let's everyone get in the same page and put together the 2 best game plans you got, and go on to a Super Bowl.
Agree. Yes.
So close. I can just feel it, man.
The talent's there.
It is.
It's there. But
yeah, I agree.
it's tough because, like, I'm a big believer, like, your struggles in the regular season aren't all of a sudden going to become strengths when the pressure gets turned up in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Look at the Phillies.
but sometimes what you do in the regular season just isn't an indicator. Like, but sometimes it is. Like, look at Kansas City last year. Kansas City was trash 99% of the year, and then those last few weeks, it was like, I'm not worried about them. It's going to be Lamar in the Super Bowl, and I'm just like, no. As long as they had Kermit the Frog at quarterback, I feel confident with them.
Yeah.
But, like, I know it's a different sport, but look at the Phillies.
Yeah.
Look at the Phillies the whole second half of the year. They didn't do anything. They didn't hit the ball. The bullpen didn't do good. And the whole narrative, myself included, was just get to October, we'll hit a bunch of home runs, and everything will be fine. Well, it got worse, and you lost to the Mets.
That's true. That's true. That could happen. It could happen, and that would set off an interesting debate around here about, what you do. But, it's a heck of a team. It really is, and I'm enjoying watching it. Most of the
time. Are you writing anything ahead of?
I'm going to write tomorrow off the coordinators, I guess.
There we go.
And I usually do that because, I don't want to because I don't have a credential anymore and I can't go down there and talk to people. I don't want to sort of be a fraud, and write a bunch of stuff that isn't sourced. But the coordinators, I can watch those press conferences just as much as anybody. I can't ask any questions, but I can get the same information as anyone else has to write about. So I generally write off of that. I would love to be able to get down there, but the Eagles are the worst. Yeah, nobody wants to hear this, but other cities you wouldn't, if you'd covered the team for 20 years, you wouldn't have a problem getting into their building. The Eagles are a little different. They look at it differently, but that's how it goes. But yeah, I will be writing tomorrow. And
Phillies are no picnic in that department.
Yeah. My old friends, the Flyers, I think would be happy to see me. But after the Eagles season's over, I'll do some of that. I'm really interested in Michkov and all that stuff. But
I got myself into the press box for one of those Winter Classic games at the at the link. It was the Penguins and the Flyers, and it was raining. They almost had to cancel the game. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And no one batted an eye at me.
Yeah. Like, I don't really want to go out and work really hard, but I wouldn't mind. Big events, you kind of miss them, when you've been to them. It's funny to watch it on TV thinking, but I don't really want to go back to work full time at all. So,
nor should you.
I'm sure my readers don't want me to do that either.
Well, Les, we appreciate you each and every week. Hopefully we can get a few more victories.
Yeah, there we go.
Les Bowen on the Birds right here on A2D Radio. So until next time, thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Have a good time up there in your new house, Rob. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's not on camera, but I got my Ryan Howard shrine up. I got my no-hitter Roy Halladay shrine up. And I got the GOAT Nick Foles holding the Lombardi Trophy.
Oh, that's quite
every morning right when I walk out the door.
Yeah.
So
and P.Y.'s got the beard fully back now. That's a good choice on his part. Yeah.
Playoff beard.
Yes. All right.
There we go.
All right.
Well, thanks again, guys. Take care.
All right. Bye, Les.
All right, P.Y., we got a few minutes left here. Pretty much covered anything. Is there anything like that is on your mind that we have not covered yet in this edition of Eagles Talk?
I'm very interested. Are we talking just Eagles or are we just talking around the NFL?
The floor is yours, my friend.
I'm very interested for next round of the AFC playoffs. I'm interested to see Lamar versus Josh Allen. That's gonna be a lot of fun. CJ Stroud versus Patrick Mahomes is gonna be an interesting matchup. But also, can we stop? For the love of all that is holy, can we stop crying about Justin Herbert now? Can we stop with the top tens? Can we stop about going up and above about
quarterback?
Right now, no, because you can't get it done in the playoffs.
That's recency bias.
He hasn't been able to get done in the playoffs for a while. Like
he's
every year,
1,000% winning a Super Bowl championship with Jim Harbaugh out there in LA. 1,000.
Yeah, they said the same thing about Phillip Rivers. Oh, he's gonna get it done eventually. Just don't you worry about it. Like
I think Justin Herbert has way more skills than Phillip Rivers.
We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But all I heard all year is, well, he's so much better than Jalen Hurts. He's so much better than him. He's so much better than him. This is like a top 4 quarterback. Look at him. He's got the flowing hair. He's got the golden arm. He is going to get this done. He's going to get this monkey off his back. It's going to happen. And what happened? He put up some yards. He threw 4 interceptions.
If the Chargers called me this offseason and said, we're sick of Justin Herbert, give us Jalen Hurts, even swap, I would make that trade.
I would hang up on
80,000 times out of
I would hang up on them so fast it would make their head spin.
That's to be an episode for the debate for another show.
I like winners. Justin Herbert's not a winner. He looks the part. He doesn't seem to be able to play the part.
Okay. Yeah, the Buffalo Baltimore game should be a good one. I don't know what to make of that here on a Monday night. I just don't. Both quarterbacks have had their struggles in the playoffs.
You're going to get Zay Flowers.
It was 28-14 Ravens over the Steelers, but the game was not that close.
No, it wasn't.
Not at all.
Henry is just he's gonna feast, and Lamar is gonna get his. Like,
I tend to agree with you. I've had an overwhelming gut feeling over the past 2 to 3 weeks that the Baltimore Ravens are going to be in the Super Bowl.
This is what the Bills do. And I understand, people, they love Josh Allen. I understand it. He's a very good quarterback. People think me and Nick Wright are his biggest haters. I get it. But I'm this is what they do. The first half of the season, oh my God, is it Bills time? Oh, they're this juggernaut. MVP. It's over. Super Bowl run. And then they start to hit that wall towards the end of the season. And they have that one playoff game where he blows up, where they blow up, and you're like, "Oh my God, this is it. This is the time." They're turning that corner, and then God, who everyone knows hates the Buffalo Bills, says, "No, thank you," and then they fall back down to earth. And then the next year, we start the cycle over and over again.
Yeah,
where we stop, nobody goes.
Yeah, it's like the Sixers cycle, or the Cowboys cycle, or the Steelers cycle.
As I've told my father many, many times, you don't lose 4 Super Bowls in a row unless God hates you.
I'm intrigued by this coaching carousel because the Dallas Cowboys have once again proven why they
so stupid. They're so stupid, Rob.
So dumb. So now they need
I am so confused, bro.
They disqualified themselves from talking to the 2 best candidates on the coordinator market, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, the offensive and defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, who...
And then they block the Bears from talking to him, from talking to Mike McCarthy, only be like, no, we're not interested in him anymore.
It's funny, I don't know who they're going to get. If I'm not Johnson and Aaron Glenn, I'm not taking that job.
I'm not either. You know who's not also
taking the Jets job? I'm not taking the Jets job either.
You know who's also not taking that job? Deion Sanders. Jerry Jones is me. He wants to be on the pamphlet. He wants to be on the commercials. He wants to be doing the stupid radio show. You know what's going to be a big kibosh to all that? Deion Sanders. Deion is going to be a bigger face, a bigger focus, and a bigger name than Jerry Jones in Dallas. And Jerry Jones will never allow that to happen.
But Deion, from his comments, he could be lying. They could tell him that they're going to get, his son somehow in the draft.
Yeah, but that's not what matters to Jerry. Jerry cares about being the face of the franchise. And Dion,
he wouldn't.
He's prime time. He's always been that way. And even when he's not trying to be, everyone is going to be obsessed with the whole Dion thing. And Jerry is not going to do anything that a coach with a personality, that's not happening. B, a coach that is not going to be a yes man, that's not happening. And C, a coach who could outshine him in any way, shape, or form.
I think as we peel back the onion in this social media period, I think it's going to be very difficult for bad franchises like the Cowboys and the Jets, and I would put the Browns on there as well, to get quality candidates to want to take their job. I'd rather be the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions than I would the Dallas Cowboys head coach. I understand I'm making a pay cut, but I mean, is the paycheck really worth dealing with Jerry Jones or Woody Johnson, two guys that are just old and aging and past their prime that don't know what they're doing anymore? My answer is no. I'd rather be with a Dan Campbell, Jared Goff combination with a loaded roster and a GM and a front office and an owner that are all on the same page. The Jets and the Cowboys are never on the same page. The Steelers are always on the same page, but it's the same average.
But it's the wrong page.
Been on for 12 years. I don't know how you can bring Mike Tomlin back if you're the Steelers.
So I bring this up a lot because people love Tomlin, and he's a fantastic coach. And I said this last year. I said I wouldn't if you had the choice between bringing in Mike Tomlin or keeping Sirianni. I said I would have kept Sirianni. And people are like, "You're insane. He's such a good coach." And I said, "What is your definition of a good coach? Is it going to the playoffs every year? Is it, he's a good development of talent, because he's a CEO coach like Sirianni, right?" And people don't love that. But I'm like, they don't win. They win meaningless years. They win 10 games every year. That's great. You know what would have been great for the Steelers as a franchise? Having a crap year and going out and getting a real quarterback. I'm sorry, you going 10-5 or 11-6 or whatever, and being one and done in the playoffs and having the 26th pick and not willing to move up, but for a quarterback, but you'll move up 15 spots for Devin Bush or whoever the hell the linebacker was a few years ago, makes no sense. They haven't won a playoff game in almost a decade.
8 years.
Can you imagine? And I always use this as a looking through the looking glass in terms of how Philadelphia would see things. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine listening to the airwaves for 8 years, talking about, "Oh my God, look, we won. We haven't won a playoff game in 8 years." Would that be okay in Philadelphia? Would that be celebrated the way it's celebrated in Pittsburgh? Because they brag about it. Oh my God!
Yeah, I think that's
never
over,
had.
though.
He's never had a losing season.
It has been said. This will be the last one. We got to wrap it up. But I think it has been that consistency has been celebrated in Pittsburgh, right, wrong, or indifferent. But I think that's done now.
We'll see.
I mean, they're not going to make a move. They're going to need to be they need to have disgruntled steel workers out there for 3 years. I feel for them to make a move.
Yes.
But I think it is time for them to make a move. All right. Rams are up 24-3 and driving on the Minnesota Vikings. 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. All indications are that Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and the Los Angeles Rams will be coming to Lincoln Financial Field Sunday at 3 o'clock.
Shocker.
We'll see you next Monday night. Win, lose, or draw for Eagles Talk. Until then, Peter Evans, I'm Rob Brinkman, Les Bowen.
Peter Young.
Peace out, everyone.